Known for their deep mechanics, challenging difficulty, immersive atmosphere, and world building, Souls-like games test players' patience and determination as they strive to find the perfect balance between risk and reward. The sense of accomplishment that comes with mastering the game's patterns and systems is extremely satisfying. In this video, we will be exploring the 10 most highly anticipated Souls-like games set to release in 2023 and beyond. So without further delay, let's begin our journey. Abyss World is a single-player, third-person action role-playing game built on Unreal Engine 5 and set in a dark fantasy world called Nordinia. Since it was only recently announced, very few details have been revealed so far. The main story is vaguely explained on the developer's website and essentially involves the Old Tide, some kind of ancient phenomenon that brings souls to the world and maintains a state of stability and harmony. After a fire thief incident, this balance is disrupted, causing chaos and corruption to spread while Nordinia falls into an abyss. Players enter a world overrun by darkness and gradually delve deeper into the foggy depths where they encounter threats left behind by the ancient world. As they journey through the vast expanse, they have the opportunity to illuminate the lighthouses scattered throughout the region, quell the fog, and work to restore balance to the world. Different monsters, from small, nimble creatures to towering bosses, will constantly stand in the way of that goal. There are a variety of enemies in the game, including humanoid ones with distorted limbs. Unlike traditional quest systems found in many other games, the developers promise that player actions and decisions will have a significant impact on the game environment. This gameplay mechanic should alter the state and appearance of certain areas and regions, allowing players to affect the world in meaningful ways. In Abyss World, players can collect soul fragments and summon powerful heroes. Each hero has a unique background, strengths and weaknesses, and belongs to a specific class, such as warrior, archmage, or assassin. Players can learn more about their heroes' stories, build relationships with them, summon them to fight against the dark forces of the Abyss, and craft legendary gear to improve their combat effectiveness and stats. The game has now been in development for over 2 years. At the time of this video, the only preview we have seen is a cinematic trailer showing off the high-quality graphics and sophisticated art style. As always, it would be more helpful to see real gameplay footage to better understand the game's content and mechanics. Nevertheless, Abyss World looks promising and we'll keep an eye on it for updates. But before we move on, another important thing worth mentioning about this title is that the game is backed by Metagame Industries, a company that is actively involved in NFTs and blockchain technology. Based on the company's profile, it looks like they will integrate these technologies into Abyss World, allowing for unique and safe in-game items and collectibles. The game is scheduled to be released on Windows PC and PlayStation 5, but there is no launch window yet. Although there were rumors it could release in 2023, this information has not been officially confirmed. Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is the latest offering from developer studio A44 Games, following the release of Ashen in 2018. Both games are open-world action role-playing games with Souls-like elements and interesting visuals. Flintlock is set in a fantasy world that combines gunpowder, magic, and melee combat. Players will use a variety of combo moves and finishers in addition to the standard dodge and roll mechanics. The story follows Nor, a young woman who seeks revenge for her father's murder at the hands of a god. After opening the gates of the afterlife, an army of undead invades the world of the living and brings humanity to the brink of extinction. Nor's goal is to save humanity by defeating the enemy and closing the gate to the afterlife. On this epic journey, Nor is accompanied by a friendly, magical fox-like creature named Enki. Together, they'll navigate vast lands, defeat various threats, and engage in challenging boss battles against ruthless gods, with each encounter being a great challenge and an unforgettable experience. Aside from the assistance of a magical companion, it appears that players will have access to the same set of weapons throughout the game, including flintlock pistols, axes, and dark magic, a system that is very similar to that of God of War. We hope that the planned role-playing elements will add enough variety and interest to the overall gaming experience. The open world of Flintlock is very detailed and divided into 3 zones, each with its own distinct environment and architectural style. When creating this world, the developers were inspired by the beautiful landscapes of New Zealand, which is not particularly surprising considering that the studio is located there. players will have the freedom to explore every corner of the world and discover valuable rewards. Upon its announcement, the game received positive reception with high expectations for its fast-paced action and beautiful graphics. It remains to be seen if the somewhat generic story will be compelling enough to achieve significant success. Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn will be released in early 2023 for Windows PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series X and S. The Lords of the Fallen is the sequel to the 2014 dark fantasy action role-playing game of almost identical name. However, this new game has undergone a change in the development team, with Hexworks taking over from Deck 13. The new team is aiming for a much more ambitious reboot. Set over 1,000 years after the original, The Lords of the Fallen takes place in a world of corrupted magic, split between the realm of the living, called Axiom, and the realm of the dead, known as Umbral. These realms are interconnected, with a setting that is more than 5 times larger than in the first game. Players wield a lantern that has the power to cross between these worlds, allowing them to reach forgotten places, recover treasures, and even rise from death in the world of the dead. As one of the fabled Dark Crusaders, players will embark on an epic quest to overthrow the demon god Adir, fighting some pretty well-designed demonic horrors along the way. Players can customize their character's appearance from a variety of options before choosing one of 9 starting classes, including Knight, Rogue, and Fire Apprentice. Characters can be tailored to the player's individual playstyle by upgrading stats, weapons, armor, and spells, regardless of the initially chosen path. The game allows players to experience the single-player campaign alone or invite a second player to participate in uninterrupted online co-op play. The developers have pledged to deliver battles that are more challenging than those in the previous game, as demonstrated in the second action-packed trailer. Speaking of which, despite being titled as a gameplay teaser, it has been edited way too much, leaving it difficult to get an authentic understanding of how the fights should feel. The trailer mainly showed scripted combat scenes, rather than providing a real gameplay experience. If anything, it would be better described as an in-engine trailer, since it primarily shows off the rendering capabilities of the game's environment and assets. Hopefully, most developers will shift away from this paradigm in the future and provide a more realistic representation of the actual gameplay for their titles. The Lords of the Fallen will be released for Windows PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S sometime in 2023. Remnant 2 is a third-person action survival shooter and a direct sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, released in 2019. The first game achieved a reasonable level of success, so it's not surprising to see a follow-up that aims to improve every aspect of the original. Players will once again be immersed in procedurally generated worlds that change every time they venture through them, offering a fresh experience with new maps, dungeons, enemy encounters, quests, and in-game events. The developers promise endless replay value through the branching quest lines and different stories woven throughout the dynamically created maps. As players explore various paths and encounter new events, no 2 experiences will be the same. From the trailer, it appears that the villains from the first game, a tree-based monsters called the Root, will continue to play an important role in the sequel, possibly corrupting and infecting more worlds. The presence of the Root in the game indicates that players will probably have to confront new and even scarier versions of these monsters, and use the new weapons and customization options to fight them. Remnant 2 offers a larger variety of weapons and a mix of intense, fast-paced action and tactical combat. Throughout the game, players will gain experience, valuable loot, and materials they need to craft and upgrade their arsenal of weapons, armor, and modifications. These extensive customization options will help players prepare for the difficult battles ahead. The game will expand its class system with the option to unlock more archetypes as the game progresses, allowing players to mix and match different archetypes to create unique characters. As in the first game, players will be able to tackle Remnant 2 not only alone, but also in co-op mode with up to 3 players. Finally, a completely new feature in the sequel is the ability to jump, which was not present in the first game. The newly released trailer conveys a distinct gothic horror feel and shows parallels to the critically acclaimed Bloodborne. Those who appreciate immersive and eerie environments should look forward to Remnant 2. The game will be released sometime in 2023 for Windows PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Wukong: The Fallen Dynasty is an upcoming action RPG that transports players to a dark fantasy version of feudal China at the start of the Three Kingdoms period, one of China's most popular and romanticized periods. It is important to say right away that Wukong is not an open-world title. The player is guided through a linear story in which they take on the role of a military volunteer. The main storyline should take about 40 hours to complete, and once it is finished, players will have additional post-game content available to continue their journey. At first sight, the game seems to be heavily influenced by Neo, but the developers assure that significant improvements and changes are being made to differentiate between the two games. For example, in Wukong, the levels are larger and the battles are shorter and faster. Additionally, because not all enemies drop loot, the equipment system has been simplified, so there's no need to change the gear quite as often. The enemies range from historical famous warriors from the Three Kingdoms to supernatural beings known as fiends. The game offers full character customization, such as appearance and a decent selection of weapons and armor. It also includes RPG elements for further character development, such as stat and attribute systems and customizable abilities that are integrated into one of the 5 combat styles selected during character creation. Combat is the most important aspect of any game that relies entirely on this system. Therefore, the developers promise smooth and responsive controls for a fun gaming experience. The fast-paced battles include Chinese martial arts elements, such as the ability to leap over opponents. The jumping mechanics should offer a greater range of vertical movement, adding a new dimension to the exploration. But probably the most important design decision that needs to be mentioned is the complete absence of a stamina bar, which normally limits the number of attacks a character can make. Without this restriction, players can attack more frequently and engage in combat at a faster pace. Wukong instead introduces a morale system that affects the player's strength in relation to enemies. The winner of the fight, whether it be a player or an enemy, experiences an improvement in morale, while the defeated opponent's morale decreases. This balance of strength shifts with each death, somewhat similar to Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system but adapted to a Souls-like game. When players defeat enemies with a higher morale rank than their character, they will have a higher chance of obtaining valuable items as rewards. Some other notable features include a fully implemented co-op mode and PvP system that borrows elements from Demon's Souls and Elden Ring. In September 2022, there was a playable demo that received an overwhelmingly positive player response. This promising start has further increased excitement for the game's official release, scheduled for March 3, 2023, for Windows PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X and S. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest content. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, set 5 years after the events of its predecessor. The new events take players on a deeper and darker journey with a far more complex story set around the same time as the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Constantly on the run from the Empire's pursuit, players once again take on the role of Cal Kestis, who is now a stronger and more experienced Jedi Knight. With his trusty companion BD-1 by his side, Cal will join forces with new and familiar allies who can help him in his fight for survival. Some of these allies are the mercenary Boda Akuna and former crew member Sia Junda. As Cal continues to develop his skills, he has access to old and new Force powers that will help him in the combat. One of these new abilities is Force Stasis, which allows players to freeze enemies and fire blaster bolts in mid-air, similar to how Kylo Ren uses this ability in The Force Awakens. The game will also introduce new lightsaber stances for Cal to master, including dual lightsabers and the crossguard stance, again made popular by Kylo Ren. These new stances require more skill to use effectively, with longer timing windows for blocking and parrying enemy attacks. Additionally, Cal will have the ability to tame and ride creatures for both traversal and mounted combat. This suggests that the game could have a more open-world structure, which is further supported by the inclusion of a gliding mechanic in the trailer. We should point out that the information about the open world being a full-fledged feature has not been officially confirmed in any way. At this point, it's all pure speculation, but some form of larger open areas will definitely be present. Other gameplay elements include a variety of new enemy types, new traversal options like air dash and ascension cable, as well as the use of blaster weapons that bring back memories of the legendary Han Solo. However, one of the most visible improvements in Survivor is the significant advancement in graphics. Survivor is being developed exclusively for 9th generation consoles. With the development team no longer constrained by the limitations of older hardware, the game will utilize ray tracing and other next-gen capabilities, such as faster load times and improved performance for a better overall gaming experience. Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be available on March 17, 2023 for Windows PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Project The Perceiver is an upcoming open-world action game inspired by titles like Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Set in a fantasy world, the game features dreary, semi-open landscapes inspired by traditional Chinese paintings and Tang Dynasty architecture, allowing players to explore several ancient cities in a beautiful fantasy setting. As they embark on their journey, players will face numerous dangers and be pulled into a world of intrigue as they fight for freedom and uncover the true identity of their ultimate enemy. In terms of gameplay, Project The Perceiver offers a mix of fast-paced combat and platforming missions with challenging environmental elements and obstacles. Players can use a grappling hook to move nimbly through the scenarios and engage in combat using a martial arts-inspired system that requires strategy and perfect timing. The combat system relies heavily on blocking and parrying. It strongly resembles that of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice and includes both a posture and a resurrection mechanic. Enemies switch between attack and defense frequently, so the more hits players can string together in a powerful chain of combos, the more damage they'll be able to unleash. Fending off multiple opponents will prove difficult, however, as it's hard to keep track of all the different attack patterns happening at once. When players find themselves in a tough fight and run out of health, they can use elixirs to restore their HP and get back into the battle. It remains to be seen if the gameplay will be more in line with the difficulty levels of From Software games, or if it will appeal more to a mainstream audience like Ghost of Tsushima. On their journey, the players will collect various masks. These masks not only change the appearance, but also the fighting style and unlock special abilities that can be primed for maximum damage. The art of switching masks during combat to adapt to different situations will be a key component in the battles. Project The Perceiver stands out due to its incredibly realistic visuals, with fluid animations and high-quality textures that truly bring the environment to life. The audio design is also remarkable, with the clashing of swords being especially noteworthy. These effects are incredibly realistic and make every battle an action-packed experience. All in all, Project The Perceiver looks to be an exciting addition to the open-world action genre, with its immersive world, challenging combat, and platforming elements. The game has been announced for both PlayStation 4 and 5, but in our opinion, the graphics seem too advanced for PS4 release. The gameplay demo was shown on PC, so it is possible that the game will also be released on this platform as well, although this has not been confirmed. The release date is yet to be announced. Black Myth: Wukong is a single-player action-adventure role-playing game being developed by the Chinese studio Game Science. The game is based on the first 7 chapters of the Chinese novel Journey to the West. The main protagonist of this story is Sun Wukong, a stone-born monkey who learns Taoism, 72 polymorphic transformations, martial arts, and the secrets of immortality. As his powers grow, he becomes capable of rivaling the powers of any Eastern deity. It is not yet clear if the game will closely follow the events from the novel or if the developers will take creative liberties with the story. Judging by the gameplay trailers, the combat is fast and visually impressive. Keeping a close eye on the enemy's movements and recognizing incoming devastating attacks is the key to successfully avoiding damage and counterattacking. Detecting weak spots in stronger opponents and developing tactics to exploit them will give you a significant edge in combat. Wukong is equipped with a magic staff that can adjust its length, allowing him to dodge certain harmful area of effect attacks and increase the range of his strikes. Besides the staff, Wukong has various combat techniques, as well as several incredible magical abilities, such as the ability to transform into different people, objects, and animals, manipulate the weather, and much more. The developers have taken advantage of the rich Chinese mythology and created huge bosses that combine various motifs from the animal world and supernatural beings. Players will fight against a bone-covered spider, a ferocious wolf-like monster, storm and electric dragons, as well as many other mythical creatures. Black Myth Wukong is powered by Unreal Engine 5 and takes full advantage of its capabilities. The graphics are simply amazing and have an incredible level of detail in all areas. While some sources indicate that the game might be released in 2023, there has been no official confirmation of these claims. The developer's website clearly states that the game will be released only when they are satisfied with it as players and taking into account cost performance. Considering the rumors about possible sequels, it goes without saying that the success of this title is imperative for the developers, as the future of the potential franchise lies on its shoulders. Black Myth Wukong is planned for Windows PC and all major consoles. Bleak Faith Forsaken is a third-person action role-playing game with horror and survival elements set in a large open world the developers call Omnistructure. To keep the element of surprise, not much information about the story has been revealed so far. The game is expected to offer 15 to 20 hours of main content, with additional side content for those who want to explore everything the game has to offer. As one of the Forsaken, players will be able to explore a handcrafted living and breathing cyber fantasy world inspired by the works of Tsutomu Nihai, H.R. Giga, Lebewus Woods, and Kentaro Miura's Berserk. At the moment, Bleak Faith is a single-player experience with no confirmed plans for multiplayer capabilities. Players will be able to choose a class and shape their character's development according to their preferred playstyle. What immediately impressed us was the unique combination of elements from Dark Souls, Shadow of Colossus, and the boss climbing feature that reminds us of Dragon's Dogma. Hopefully, we can finally stop fiddling around with those pesky feet and knees and take some mighty swipes at the boss's upper parts. It has been promised that Bleak Faith will be a very challenging game with no difficulty slider at all. Players will have to constantly pay attention to their positioning, timing, and resource management in order to succeed. As usual, stamina is once again an important resource in the game since it is consumed by both light and heavy attacks, as well as by blocking and parrying enemy hits. Additionally, the execute feature can be used to finish off enemies that have been knocked to the ground, which happens frequently during the game. The main focus, however, is on the story and the overall experience of exploring this interesting and bizarre world, although there are certain survival elements to consider as well. In Bleak Faith, players must manage their inventory and collect materials from enemies in the environment to craft useful items and make their journey easier. The game also offers a variety of different gameplay options that will let players overcome different challenges and tasks in a way that fits their own playstyle and preferences. Take the questing system, for example. There will be a large number of quests, but they are not mandatory and can be largely ignored by the player if they choose to do so. Bleak Faith Forsaken has been in development since January 2019 and is scheduled to be released simultaneously for Windows PC and consoles. Despite several delays over the past year, it seems that the game is finally on track to be released soon, possibly as early as February this year. Lies of P is a single-player action role-playing game inspired by Bloodborne, with Pinocchio at the helm as he navigates a city full of danger and despair. The game features a dark and gritty neo-Victorian setting that immerses players in a sinister and atmospheric environment. The well-designed map layout includes a large number of different locations to explore, with a good balance between partially open areas and confined spaces. The developers are working on a story that will last more than 30 hours to complete. Pinocchio wakes up in the city of Krut, determined to find his father Geppetto while facing dreadful monstrosities. Desperate to become human, he learns that lying is the key to achieving his goal. Those who are familiar with the original story know that Pinocchio's nose grows when he lies. This feature is not present in the game, although truth and lies are an important part of the plot. The game will feature interconnected procedural quests that will evolve depending on the player's ability to deceive. The player's own moral compass will ultimately shape the world and its characters, resulting in a compelling and unpredictable narrative until the end. Lies of P follows a similar gameplay style to From Software's Bloodborne and Dark Souls, requiring players to strategically combine attacks with well-timed dodges in order to defeat powerful enemies that can quickly deplete Pinocchio's health. However, the game adds its own touch to the formula with a weapon creation system that allows players to assemble the perfect tool for any situation and a customizable body that leverages Pinocchio's mechanical frame to full effect. Pinocchio's left arm can be equipped with 8 different tools that can be useful in combat. With one of these tools called the puppet string, Pinocchio can hook a wire to an enemy within range and pull himself towards them. Players can combine different types of weapons to create more than 100 lethal devices. These combinations affect attack motion, available skills, and stats such as range, attack speed, and damage. Although the game boasts many impressive features, if the combat, the most vital aspect of the game, does not meet expectations, it would render all other features irrelevant. Fortunately, the controls feel familiar, responsive, and intuitive, making it easy for the player to get into the action and enjoy the challenges from the start. Lies of P looks like it will deliver on all fronts. It offers fluid gameplay that will keep players hooked for hours and is supported by impressive graphics and an art style reminiscent of Bloodborne. We'll see if this is the case sometime in 2023 when it's released for Windows PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X and S. So which of these games did you find the most interesting? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more gaming content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and a ton of fun.